What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Christian Hanna Horror here with my boy Kalen again, the local horror fan. He's back from the grave and ready to party.
Good to be back in the horror room for 1993.
1993, I was 1. How old were you? 37?
About that. Yeah.
All right, so here we go, guys. 1993. Really quick, I want to stop and take a second to say we miss you, Tommy. Wish you could be here today. He couldn't. We miss you. We'll make sure Tommy gets back here again very soon in this top 5 lists. So here we go. 1993. Kalen, you're my guest, so I may as well let you go first.
Okay,
What's your number 5?
Appreciate that. Little movie that I'm not going to spoil too much, but Necronomicon was my number 5.
Excellent choice. And I wonder how many. That's one of those movies when I was thinking about whether I have that on my list or not. I don't want to spoil it yet, but I was wondering how often that's going to come up in everybody else's list because it's kind of a polarizing movie.
Yeah, I think it was one that caught me on the box art and just.
Oh, definitely. I know that for sure. I remember seeing that one all the time at Blockbuster. So let me jump in. My number 5 is actually a John Carpenter film, Body Bags.
Body Bags.
I think it was it a Showtime special that he did. I love Body Bags. My favorite story of those is definitely the guy who's losing his hair and he wants to get the hair back, and so he does that stuff and the little snakes come out of his head. That's great. And also seeing Lizzie McGuire's dad in the first episode of that with the gas station was great. It still has. John Carpenter just somehow is able to take a anthology TV movie, which has so much going against it right there. I mean, look, a TV horror anthology movie on Showtime, you just wouldn't expect much. I don't know why. Maybe that's just me. I never get too excited over stuff like that. But I loved it. I thought Body Bags was fantastic. And Luke Skywalker was in the third story. And
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill. And I think Tobe Hooper actually directed that sequence, which really, all 3 of those are fantastic when I think about it. I have a favorite, but I can't really say one's the best. I think they're all equally really good. So, that's my number 5 is Body Bags by Mr. John Carpenter.
Number 4?
Go ahead, number 4.
Right, my number 4 is probably going to be a lot of people's number 1, and I hope you're not too disappointed that I picked Jason Goes to Hell.
Jason Goes Straight to Hell. That's another, talk about polarizing movies. Jason Goes to Hell now seems like people are opening up to it. It has like the Halloween 3 effect.
Yeah.
I'm not bragging or saying I was a Halloween 3 fanatic before it was cool. Now it's kind of cool to like Halloween 3. Everybody's in it. And I'm seeing the same thing with Jason Goes to Hell. He said, I ain't got a problem with Jason Goes to Hell. I think it's a fun movie. Yeah, it's not the New Blood. It's not Jason Lives. He's not in the woods, boom, boom. It's crazy, but it's fun. Yeah. And it's some of the sequence in there are just so goofy.
I watched it recently and I enjoyed it.
It does really feel like that. I don't know what it is about that early 90s. It's like the breath before like a modern style of movies. It's fun. I love the diner and the Voorhees burgers they made. Yeah. One day I need to grill and make Voorhees burgers.
Do it, man.
I've never done it, so. All right, so let's see. Number 4 for me. Coming in early in my list, but like I said, this is 5 of the best movies of 1993. I got Leprechaun at number 4. I adored Leprechaun. Gotta be one of the last classic movie slashers. Like, I don't know how many modern. I don't know how many more slashers came in after Leprechaun franchises. I guess the only one I can really think of would be Jeepers Creepers, The Creeper, and maybe you could say The Collector guy, but that was only 2 movies, I think. But anyway, I don't know what it is. Man, Leprechaun Leprechaun feels like the 3rd or 4th installment of a franchise that kind of used to be serious and just has the tiniest hint of horror, but it's mostly comedy.
Yeah.
And I love that that's how the franchise starts.
Still holds up.
Absolutely. And what's funny is in the documentary, they wanted the movie to be like more of a comedy than horror, and what they did was really kind of transform the movie into more horror, which is funny because I'd like to see the way the director had really done it, because it had to have just been a full-blown, National Lampoon type movie.
Oh, sure.
So, and then the scene with the Lucky Charms where he eats them and he doesn't like them.
Yeah, it starts out kind of silly, and then the franchise just goes even more wild.
But Warwick Davis killed it. I mean, he is Leprechaun the way he is Leprechaun to me the way Robert is Freddy.
Mhm.
Now I'm not saying they're on the same level of
Yeah.
icon, but you get what I mean. Like no one else can beat Leprechaun.
No.
So
He does it well. All right, my number 3 is gonna be Puppet Master 4.
oh man, that's a good one.
It's a great movie.
It's weird how in Puppet Master 4 they didn't have Tunneler, and 5 I think took place right around the same. It's in the same era.
Mm-hmm.
Where was Tunneler in 4? I think the fans were like, hey, what happened to the guy with not Tunneler, Torch?
Torch, yeah.
But I love 4. I mean, I had this reoccurring nightmare of 4, and I'd always thought I had made this up in my head, but it really happened because 4 is the first one I ever saw. The scene where he gives them those laser guns and they're shooting. I remember having a nightmare of that when I was really little, and I thought I just made that scene up. But finally, I saw 4 again. And I was like, oh my God, that really happened. Which is a bizarre scene. Do those lasers hurt when they hit you? You know, like, I always wondered that.
I was triggered when I'd go to laser tag.
All right, for me, what are we at, number 3? I've actually got Jason Goes to Hell myself at number 3. We already pretty much said what we needed to. It was a tough year. I've got a couple movies after this, obviously, that, rank a little bit higher. Once again, just a strange period because the next of these movies, one of them has that classic vibe and another one really doesn't, but Jason Goes to Hell to me just keeps bettering with age. Plain and simple. I think I'll even like it more, and I think it's going to age better because it has that reminiscent, nostalgic feel. Yeah. And I think the longer time goes by, it'll feel more like that. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it didn't feel very old yet. I wouldn't say it was new, obviously, but it didn't have the what's the word I'm looking for? It didn't have that staying power the way, Part 4 had yet. But I'm not saying it ever will, but the love's going to keep growing for Jason Goes to Hell. I can promise you that.
And if you haven't seen Jason Goes to Hell in a while, do yourself a favor and watch it.
Absolutely. All right, so we're at number 2.
Number 2. This is a movie that you've already talked about, and that's John Carpenter's Body Bags.
Excellent.
And I'm a fan of the anthology. I like Tobe Hooper. I like, of course, John Carpenter. A lot of Mark Hamill's in it. It's one of my favorites.
And one thing I forgot to mention, I was surprised at how good John Carpenter was in those little story parts he did in between the movies. I was actually surprised to see him that happy, number one, because every interview he does, he's just very matter of fact and just kind of dry. Right. And to see him actually laughing and having fun in a movie is crazy. You see him smile, even much less that. You never see the guy smile.
Yeah, he was enjoying what he was doing.
So that was always enjoyable. It was fun watching that. So, all right, my number 2 is Return of the Living Dead Part 3. I love it so much. Return of the Living Dead Part 3, the Romeo and Juliet story. Obviously, you can see I'm rocking my lovely Return of the Living Dead shirt. Will always represent Return of the Living Dead. 3 is... I remember the first time I watched 3, Kaylin, I had Walmart. You probably remember this too. Walmart used to be really cool. They used to have those big bins in the DVD section where they were all just kind of piled up.
Right.
And they had these horror collector packs, which are actually worth money now because they don't make them anymore.
Where you can get 10 movies.
Exactly. I bought one that had... Dude, it was actually... I have them all still. It had like Bride of Reanimator in it, Night of the Living Dead, Night of the Living Dead 3D from 1990. The Chuds were in there, and there was one with Return of the Living Dead 3 in there. And that was the first time I watched the movie. And I figured because it hit one of those 10-pack releases, I said, well, it can't be that great. Yeah. But, I was like, well, it's still Return of the Living Dead. So when I watched it, I was like, dude, this is actually like really good. I really liked it. And I was actually glad it was somewhat different as opposed to being like the second one, you know. And I think that's what helps that franchise. Each one has its certain fan base and certain identity. They're not really wishy-washy, and this one connects to this one. They're all completely different. And while there did a couple more after that, obviously, the third one was arguably like the last really good classic Return of the Living Dead. So I don't know, I love it. I just absolutely love Part 3. It's one of my favorites. So there it is.
Before we get to number 1s, should we do honorable mentions?
Yeah, I've got a big list right here, and then chime in if I don't cover any of these. Doll Man versus Demonic Toys, another fun one. Yeah. The Good Son, as good as it is, like, and I'm not saying this to sound like I'm just trying to dodge this movie from being on the list. if I had to call any movie a thriller, that's what I would call it.
Yeah.
Because when I think of horror, I think of the types of movies we're saying, and that just didn't hit the register on what I was looking for. If somebody was going to watch this movie and say, okay, I want to see some horror movies, like that would be a good thriller, kind of meet you halfway,
Right.
the general audience kind of movie. So
kind of similar to Misery. Or,
yeah, absolutely.
Like
Maniac Cop 3, still a very good viable franchise at that point. The Vanishing, Subspecies 2, another good Full Moon franchise. Needful Things, and I got a movie called The Dark Half. You got anything else you could think of?
Yeah, I was thinking back to this past Halloween, and when we were going to the different Spirit Halloween stores, and one franchise that was coming back from '93 in a big way was Hocus-Pocus.
Oh my goodness! My wife was like, "That's gonna be on your list, right?" And I was like, "No, it's not, because it's not my cup of tea, but it's so much of a like a insane fan base."
Yeah.
And I didn't know that Mick Garris wrote that, which is really cool.
Wow.
Which is he did Psycho 4, Gremlins 2, not Gremlins 2, Critters 2. So for a horror guy to write that was really interesting.
And it's a Bette Midler comedy, but
absolutely.
It's strong. Strong movie from '93.
It's got its fans, absolutely 100%. So go ahead with your number one. What do you got?
Number one for me is Leprechaun.
Leprechaun.
And, I mean, you broke it down well. I'm just wondering, with St. Patrick's Day coming up, are we going to get a Leprechaun review?
We are going to get... You have to be part of it with the orange hair.
All
and
right.
I'm actually Irish blood, which is cool.
Cool.
I didn't know that Hannah is crazy as it sounds. I didn't realize Hannah was Irish.
Wow.
So I'm just ignorant. I never really looked into it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. I'm from the South Louisiana, so I always assumed I was just like French.
Yeah.
But obviously Hannah is like not only Irish, just like one of the biggest Irish names. So I don't know what I was thinking.
I knew I liked you for a reason. Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely have to review at least the first 3 Leprechauns, because that's movies I never really talked about on this channel. So
well, let us know in the comments if you
Leprechaun reviews this March. Okay, my number one, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. This movie, I didn't realize it came out this year, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of my favorite alien type movies ever. Is Fire in the Sky. That movie blew me away. I don't know if you've ever seen Fire in the Sky. It is based on a true story. And in this movie, it's a group of friends. They're kind of redneck guys. They're in the woods partying, bonfires, whatnot. And this alien spacecraft comes out and takes one of the guys.
Oh wow!
And what's good about this movie is they actually show the abduction in the spacecraft, and it is horrifying. Go on YouTube and check out clips of this. Excuse me, Fire. I'm getting worked up. Fire in the Sky. I get chills thinking about it because the movie was so scary to me. It's one of the, in my opinion, one of the greatest alien movies, period, that doesn't get talked about enough. I mean, it is so, you got a fantastic cast. The names aren't registering to me, but if you watch the movie, you'd say, oh, I know that guy. I've seen him in this. I've seen him in this. Just fantastic. And it's, like I said, based on a true story. All these guys took polygraph tests, whatnot, would pass them all saying, no, this alien really took this guy, because the police were like, which one of y'all killed this guy and hit him or something. To me, it's just that good of a movie. It had to come in at number 1 for me. So
Out of the mouth of Christian Hanna.
Yep, that's it. So, like, a lot of these movies, for instance, like, I forget what year they came out. So when I go to do my ranking, I'm like, oh my God, that movie came out that year.
Yeah.
So Fire in the Sky caught me by surprise big time when I looked that up.
Definitely have to check that out.
Oh, fantastic movie. But you still get a little bit of everything in this era. You've got the Fire in the Skies, you've got the Leprechauns, you've got the the Jason still. So you get a lot of good stuff. We're really in the, what I like to call, the video store era, because Full Moon is coming up big time. As you had Puppet Master 4 on your list, never went to theaters, but you didn't need to go to theaters at this point, because Blockbuster was like, hey, all you people that make these movies that lower budget but still have quality, come bring them to us. People can see them. So it's an interesting time for sure, or it was an interesting time. Hopefully you're kind of reminiscing about this stuff while we're talking about it. So as always, Christian and Kaylin, top 5 of 1993. We'll see you guys again for 1994. Y'all be good.